Hi, welcome to Dish in the Dirt with the Little Youper. Today I'm going to talk about Alpena Mid-Michigan and how they are failing. And they're failing horribly and tremendously. Recently, a friend of mine had a medical emergency. She was having an allergic reaction to a medication that a doctor had prescribed her. Her sister ended up calling 911, and the ambulance showed up. Let's start with the ambulance. Speaking to both of them, they both said there was only one of the ambulance drivers that were compassionate and were willing to talk and listen to my girlfriend. The other ones, I guess, were rolling their eyes, whispering under their breaths about being a drug addict, wouldn't let her get dressed, wouldn't listen to her sister when she said there's more meds in her safe because she locks up her pain prescriptions. Just a little bit of a history on her. A month ago, she had major back surgery. She had 3 fusions done in her back. And to make a long story straight, basically what a fusion is they take cadaver bone and they graft it into your spine. So just imagine that procedure. So she's healing from that from a month ago. 3 days after her back surgery, she fell and broke her foot. And just 2 weeks ago, she had foot surgery. She's a mess. When she got to the ER, they put her in a room on the gurney that she rode into from an ambulance. So they didn't even give her a real bed. They just put her on the gurney, no sheet. The call button was placed behind the bed to where she couldn't reach it. Her cell phone was placed in her shoe where she couldn't reach it. She asked repeatedly for water or ice chips, was refused. She asked repeatedly to use the bathroom. She was refused. They stationed a Michigan State police officer outside her door. Now, mind you, they placed this Michigan State police officer outside the emergency room door before they did any blood work, before the doctor even came in and asked her what was going on. After they did the first round of blood work, the doctor came in with the baggie of medications that the ambulance driver brought from her house, minus the 3 that were in her safe. And he looked at her and he basically said, "Gotcha," or something along the line. Don't quote me on that, but she's kind of fuzzy on the way that he said it. But he basically accused her, like, "I got you now. I know what you're doing." And when she asked him, "What do you mean?" he picked up the baggie of meds and shook them and says, "You have benzos, a muscle relaxant, and a pain pill, narcotic in your system, and they're not prescribed to you." And she explained to him that her 3 meds, which are baclofen, muscle relaxer, Klonopin, it's a benzodiazepine, Percocet, that's a pain pill or a narcotic. Those 3 meds were locked in her safe because she wants her nieces and nephews and her grandkids to be safe when they come over to her house. I come over there with my granddaughter who's 3. So she keeps that stuff locked up. Her other meds, she keeps in her purse. Her blood pressure, high blood pressure, high cholesterol. She's in her 50s. She takes meds. The doctor argued with her for a little while. She got a little irate, and I would have gotten irate too. I mean, here I am having a medical emergency. I'm having a reaction to a medication that you prescribed me. or a doctor prescribed me, and you're accusing me of being a drug addict, and you have a Michigan State police officer outside my door. That would kind of freak out anybody. And I'm sorry, if I'm not a drug addict, I would get offended. People would get highly offended, and then they're acting like they're being they're defensive. No, they're offended. Defensive and offensive and being offended, there's a fine line. There's a very fine line about those two. Really. I can be offended, and you may think I'm defensive. And that's where these cops and these doctors use the definitions wrong. Oh, she's not offended, she's being defensive. Okay. She was there for 10 hours at the ER. Well, the police officer was not outside her door the whole time, but it's the fact that he was stationed out at her door for quite a few hours. She had a CT scan with contrast. And anybody who has gone through that procedure, it's not a pleasant procedure. It really isn't. They shoot you up with this dye crap. They put you in a tube. Anybody gets kind of tensed in that situation. But she went through it. She went through the CT scan with contrast. She went through repeated blood draws and questioning and treated like a drug addict until she finally screamed at the doctor and told the doctor, check my medical records. The Percocet that's in my system was given to me by this hospital not 2 weeks ago from the surgeon. Honestly, that's where that Percocet, the pain pills that were in her system, was from her foot surgery 2 weeks prior, which was issued by the hospital. It was filled in the hospital pharmacy. Why didn't this come up when they did they not type her name into the database and find out, oh, she was just here 2 weeks ago for his foot surgery? Here's her medication list. No, they obviously did not do that. They obviously jumped to conclusions before they even ran her name. He obviously contacted the Michigan State Police and said, we got a junkie. Why else was that Michigan State Police officer there? Why was the Michigan State Police even called? The only thing I can think of is the hunt team. Michigan State Police run with the hunt team. But it's a sad day when you can't even go to the ER with a medical emergency, a legit medical emergency, without being put into the category of being a drug addict. That's offensive. That's wrong. I do believe her HIPAA rights and her civil rights were violated. Because after they had found out that, yes, all these medications that are in your system are indeed prescribed to her by doctors. They then went and called her sister to come and get her. The nurse walked in and asked her, are you ready to leave? She says, yes, I am. Well, let's get you dressed. Well, then the doctor walked in and says, I need you to sign this. And they made her sign a paper stating she was leaving against medical advice. Okay. She had a CT scan with contrast. She was held basically hostage. Basically. Because why else are you giving her this paper stating you're signing out against medical advice when she has been there for 10 hours already? 10 hours she was in this ER room. No one was allowed to go in with her because of COVID. And she was treated like a drug addict. And then sent home with a paper saying she's leaving against medical advice. Also, I want to add that as soon as they found out that those meds were actually prescribed to her by doctors in Alpena County, that police officer nonchalantly disappeared and wasn't seen again. So these are my questions. One, why were the police called? I mean, it's the hospital. You should not be calling a police officer for someone who's having a medical emergency. Two, is the drug so bad in the Alpena County that they're seeing so many drug-related issues in the ER department that the doctor's judgment is clouded? This woman's in her 50s. And he basically treated her like she was a drug addict and she bought something wrong off the streets, when in all actuality it wasn't. And if you really, we're not positive about it, but we honestly think it was her medication for her psoriasis. They changed it up. She's now not on a pill form. She's on an injection. She's only been on it a couple of months, and every time she gets this injection, this happens. It has never been this bad to where she was this confused, this disoriented. I mean, she couldn't form sentences. She couldn't stay awake. She was confused. And her sister and I, who know her, know that's not normal. And instead of them taking our word for it, that there's something not right with her, she doesn't do drugs, she's just on these medications, she's just had 2 major surgeries within the last month, like that'll mess with you right there. And she was treated just like a common criminal. Now, I'm not going to let this go, because I have another friend that they did something similar to. And I'll get into that story another time, because that one will just blow your mind. But yeah, I've reached out to the hospital, waiting on a comment back on them. I've also reached out to the Michigan State Police. We'll see. She has reached out to a couple of attorneys. This podcast is not lies. This podcast is nothing but truth. Nothing but truth. I am here to dish the dirt. Basically, I'm here to uncover the corruption that I see in my community, in my surrounding communities. You've got people being treated like drug addicts in our hospital. You've got the Hunt team breaking laws and still going after people for weed, when apparently the meth is so high and out of control that the doctors jump to conclusions. That's the only thing I can think of, is that the drug pandemic is so freaking bad right now that it's clouding our doctors' judgments. And I'm hoping that's what it is. Like, otherwise, what else is there? Our doctors are incompetent. That's what it is. Like, doctors are supposed to do no harm. They're supposed to listen to their patient, not just jump to conclusions. And it's not right. It's not fair. And it's got to stop. And every time I see corruption in my community, Michigan State Police are right there. Right there, hand in hand. So I think it's time that we call them out and tell them, whoa, y'all are going rogue. You guys are breaking laws. You guys are ridiculous. I'm trying not to use bad words. I'm not going to promise in future videos that I'm going to be more so composed, because I do get worked out. I get worked up bad. Anyone who knows me knows I get worked up. But I will definitely keep everybody involved and updated on this situation. As soon as I know more names, I don't want to just throw one name out there. Okay, it's because it won't be fair if I just throw the doctor's name out there and I don't throw the police officer's name out there. That's not what I'm about. I'm about all the truth. So I'm waiting back on some medical records from my girlfriend. She's trying to obtain them right now. She's actually getting a little bit of a pushback from the hospital right now. They don't want to release them for some reason, saying, well, we gave you what you needed. And we'll see if they actually release them or she has to get a lawyer involved. If she's got to get a lawyer involved, then, well, I guess I'm going to have to do another video at a future time. And I'm hoping that's not what happens. Like I said, I'm waiting on phone calls back too. If I don't hear anything today, I'll recall the people that I called yesterday. So I think that's all I want to go over on this video. I do promise that the rustiness will eventually get away once I get comfortable in my skin on front of camera, because I really don't. It's one thing making TikTok videos and dancing, but when you're speaking and you're not speaking to anyone but yourself in the camera, it gets daunting. And I give everybody out there that does podcasts kudos for this, because I'm sweating right now and my palms are just dripping in sweat. So I will leave you with that lovely image, and I will talk to you guys later. Peace and love.